I'm Tavi Nasir, and this is Leadership Biz Cafe, a podcast that provides insights and tools to help leaders take on the challenges and opportunities found in leading today's workplaces. Leadership Biz Cafe is brought to you by Tavi Nasir Leadership, our leadership firm that offers keynotes and corporate trainings in both in-person and virtual settings that will help you to improve the way you lead and guide your organization's growth and future successes. To find out how we can help you today with your leadership challenges and discover your untapped opportunities, visit our website at tavinasir.com. And with that, let's dive into a brand new edition of Leadership Espresso Shot. At one time or another, we've all had to deal with a customer service department whose response and actions leave much to be desired. A recent experience my wife and I had with the customer service department for a major retailer also illustrated how the way a leader shows up in those moments can influence their employees' perceptions of their roles and consequently impact their organization's ability to turn a problem into an opportunity to succeed. For the past few weeks, my wife and I have been trying to get some after-sales support for a recliner sofa we recently bought. We took turns calling the customer support number listed on our invoice, and each time we got a voice message advising us to leave our contact information and someone would get back to us shortly. After leaving several messages with no follow-up reply, my wife decided to change tactics by calling the sales department in order to try and reach someone who can help us with this problem. Her initiative paid off as the sales rep directed her call to one of the company's frontline sales managers. When my wife explained to the sales manager the numerous messages we'd left that were never returned, his first response was to claim that we were probably calling an old extension that was no longer in use. After she pointed out that this was a recent purchase and that the voice message didn't redirect us to a new extension, the sales manager changed his answer to suggest that we'd encountered a glitch in their system, as the after-sales department manager was usually very prompt about returning calls. At that point, he took down our invoice number and contact information, telling us that he'd forward our case to the after-sales department and that someone would contact us in the next few days to resolve the issue. As frustrating as this whole situation has been, the experience brought to mind the following 4 questions leaders should ask themselves to help empower their employees to succeed, especially when faced with problems and issues being brought forth by those who use their organization's products or services. The first question you should ask to empower your employees to succeed is, are your actions creating a culture of accountability? Most of us are familiar with the notion that leaders should credit success to their employees and carry the burden of blame when things go wrong. Although it's certainly true that passing out blame when things go wrong does little for fostering team harmony, it's still important that leaders promote a culture of accountability. In order to accomplish this, leaders need to encourage their employees to step in when they see something going wrong by demonstrating that their organization is not focused on identifying who to blame, but on how to help those who discover problems or issues to address and hopefully resolve them. If we look at this sales manager's initial response to my wife telling him about all those unanswered messages we'd left, it's clear that he was coming at this from a blame game perspective, and so he was more interested in deflecting blame, in this case back to my wife and I by claiming we had called the wrong extension, than on finding ways to help us resolve the situation. We have to remember that as leaders, it's our duty to nurture within our organization a culture that encourages a sense of accountability for our shared efforts, and not just for our own individual contributions. That means demonstrating to our employees that accountability is not about who will take the blame when things go wrong, but who has the authority and permission to take the initiative to make sure problems are addressed to help get things back on course. It's also the responsibility of leaders to help their employees to be outward focused on those they collaborate with and work for, instead of only looking out to protect themselves and their interests, an attitude and behavior that can be encouraged by evaluating your response to the next question I'd like to share. So, the second question leaders should be asking is, do my employees feel a sense of ownership in their shared efforts? To encourage a sense of accountability within your organization requires more than simply having the expectation that your employees will take the lead in addressing issues that they come across, regardless of whether it was a result of something they did or not. You also need to foster a sense of ownership in their shared efforts. Your employees need to care about what your organization does because of how it connects to what matters to them. And to get people committed to your vision, you first have to recognize and embrace what matters to them and how your vision ties into their inner sense of purpose. That's the key factor behind so many of today's thriving organizations, where the emphasis is not simply on what the organization needs to accomplish, but on why that accomplishment will matter for both the organization and for those who contribute their shared efforts to that goal. Going back to this sales manager's handling of my wife's call, it was clear that because this wasn't his division, he had no interest in taking responsibility for the situation. And if this sales manager doesn't feel invested in his organization's efforts beyond his department, it shouldn't surprise anyone that his employees wouldn't care or feel a sense of ownership over matters that fall outside of their responsibilities too. The third question leaders should ask is, have I created conditions that make it easier for employees to take the initiative to help resolve problems they come across? While establishing an organizational culture of shared accountability and ownership is important, how effective these measures will be in helping your organization reach its shared goals will depend on whether your leadership serves to empower those under your care to succeed. To put this another way, do you demonstrate through your words, behaviors, and actions that your focus is not on assigning blame, but on helping your employees to take action to ensure your organization's success? Imagine, for example, if in response to our problem, this sales manager had said, "I'm sorry to hear that you've been having difficulties reaching our customer service department. They are normally quite prompt on returning calls. I'll be sure to have someone take a look at our system to find out why your calls went unanswered. But while I have you on the phone, how can I be of help?" The message he would be sending to his team and his customers is that his focus is not restricted to narrowly defined roles and responsibilities. Instead, thanks to that sense of ownership we explored in the previous question, he's driven to help others in his organization to address potential problems or issues that come to his attention, regardless of whether the problem directly affects his department or not. In addition, this kind of response doesn't make one department look bad over the other, nor does it take away control, responsibility, or authority from other team members. Instead, it's outward focused on how can he use his awareness of these new problems to help employees both within and outside his team to be successful in their efforts to achieve their organization's shared goals. And finally, the fourth question that you should ask if you want to empower your employees to succeed is, are problems treated as an opportunity for learning and growth? While it might be a given that every leader wants and needs their employees to succeed, what's not a given is whether leaders create a space for their employees to gain unique and unexpected insights about their work and processes when something goes wrong. In order to achieve this, leaders need to create an environment where your employees know that those in charge are aware and care about the problems their employees might have to face, and how they can help their employees to use these opportunities to further their knowledge and skills in order to better handle such issues in the future. The problem my wife and I experienced with this company certainly provided a unique opportunity for this organization to learn about certain gaps in their after-sales support system and how they might address them. However, the ambivalence this sales manager had towards understanding our situation sent a clear message not just to his customers, but to his employees that this organization's leadership has little interest in treating such issues as an opportunity to improve their processes and strengthen their brand. The fact is, your organization is not going to get things right every time, and your employees know that. But what they might not be as certain about is whether those in charge will view these situations as moments of truth and growth for both your employees and your organization. How leaders treat these moments will play a critical role in your organization's ability to rebound from a mistake as your employees will have the understanding that this is a necessary step towards achieving success. As competition on the global front continues to grow, and with it, continual challenges to an organization's ability to maintain and grow their market share, it's becoming clear that leaders need to make sure they are mindful of what measures will allow them to differentiate and gain an upper hand against their competition. By asking yourself these 4 questions, you can make sure that the actions and behaviors you demonstrate around your team serve to inform your employees of how they should view their roles and responsibilities, and with it, what they can do to help your organization to succeed, even when things don't go the way you planned. So I hope you enjoyed the insights I shared in this episode, if not also being reminded of your own poor experiences with an after-sales support issue. And if this episode has you interested in hearing more about my insights on leadership in today's evolving workplaces, I'd like to invite you to connect with me so we could talk about what I can share in a leadership keynote or workshop. Just drop me a line by filling out the contact form at tavinasir.com, where you can also find more information on my speaking and workshop pages, including what other leaders have had to say about attending my past keynotes and workshops. And by the way, if you enjoyed this episode or past episodes of my podcast, I'd appreciate it if you could take a moment here to rate and review my show wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Tavin Nasir, and you've been listening to Leadership Biz Cafe.